Happy Devil's Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 235. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with Pucks and Pitchforks blog editor-in-chief Nick Villano, streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network. Nick's in his primetime radio studios bunker in South Jersey. I'm up in North Jersey, covering all jerseys. Special guest tonight from the Hockey News, Kristy Flannery, will be in very shortly. Nick, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm a little tired. I've been busy at work, just taking this little downtime to do things around the house, making Mrs. Wu happy after our anniversary. Then we had Halloween, Mischief Night. I don't still go out on Mischief Night, though.
I was going to say, what is the celebration for Mischief Night? Did you dress up for Halloween?
No, I didn't. I was just a stupid old man.
Oh. Well, me and the little guy, we were matching Frankensteins, and the wife was the wife of is it Frankenstein's bride or Bride of Frankenstein, right? Is that what the official term?
Oh, I don't know.
It's been a while. I'm also very tired. Been a long week. Lots of kids in my life over the last week, and I'm not built the way I used to be, Sam. That became very clear.
Well, you know what would help you out is on November 10th. It's like Popeye and spinach and Crew Brew.
Ooh.
An American whiskey on November 10th by Departed Souls from Jersey City. Yeah. Little plug there.
You got to plug the beer. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten the beer yet. I haven't gotten up there. So we're hoping to do that soon. So I can promote it. Unfortunately,
Nick, I just want to let the fans know you can go to your local liquor store, or especially ShopRite Liquors or ShopRite Wine and Spirits, whatever you want to call it, and just request it, and it'll be delivered.
Ooh.
That's what we're finding out from fans actually making requests. And they're actually in quite a few ShopRite Liquors or Wine and Spirits around North Jersey right now.
Are you talking about Departed Souls or the beer itself?
The beer itself, and Crew Brew. You just got to request it.
I thought you confused me, Sam. I thought there was a debut.
Well, there is, but this is just the cans. It's already out. But it's a soft launch. Okay, the debut is a hard launch, November 10th. I can't control the demand. Okay, people want it. What are we gonna do? Not sell it?
That's fair. And I do want to take this time, speaking of beer, I want to thank our friends from last week, Danielle and Ryan and all the guys at the brewery, because we do have Kristy Flannery coming on.
Yes.
One half of Stiletto and Stouts. The other half is Ryan, who hosted us at his brewery last week.
Yep.
I thought that was a great event. We had a lot of fun there. So yeah, I really appreciate them holding the, and I really appreciate we had quite a few fans who came out, and we were able to make a donation to one of Ken Danico's charities. So
yeah,
it was an overall really good night.
It was a very good night. And sorry, I'm just trying to a little experiment with product placement here on the podcast. But there is an Ant Crew Brew behind me. So it was a great time last week. Hey, I liked I thought the Japanese food that I called in was pretty good, too. Yeah. DoorDash.
I definitely never paid you for that, so
I'll No. I told you it's on me. It's on me. I feel bad. ever since what's that guy's name from Locked On Devils, Trey Matthews, tweeted out that I paid for his meal, it's like suddenly I have a reputation to live up to. So don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Listen, hey, I'll get you one time. I'll get you. What do you like? You like the salad at American Whiskey, right?
Yeah.
Like one of the weirdest.
Are you kissing up to my wife because she'd be like, that Nick guy, he is a good influence on you. You should
Listen,
to him.
I got good ideas, and salad is apparently one of them. I don't eat salad, but I eat a spinach salad. So I eat a certain type of salad, but I don't like lettuce. So
I'm
you
the
give me a
same way.
spinach salad.
I'm the same way. I'm either spinach, and if I'm really, really, really ambitious, I'll eat kale. Believe it or not.
I like kale.
Yeah.
I like kale cooked more than I like it raw or whatever it's dry. And like if I'm forced to, I'll eat a mixed green if it has like a really I don't like a lot of dressings. I don't like most of them, but like I like some of the apple based ones. So if you give me like an apple based dressing, I'll have a mixed green, but it's rare. But I had a lot of fun on Halloween. Shout out to Tom's River for having that October 30th trick or treating. Really worked with my schedule, and I grew up in Tom's River, so got to go with my mom and got to see some of the neighbors that I grew up with kind of see me trick or treating with the little guy. It was a throwback, right? You usually go trick or treating with your friends, you go see all your neighbors. Now all my neighbors can see my little guy, and yes, I did make him get candy at 5 months old, and we are currently eating that candy, and we appreciate my little guy for his efforts to get us said free candy.
Wow. I don't have kids though, Nick, and I don't know.
Just you can't steal a niece or a nephew of some kind?
I don't know. I just always think that people are going to poison me. So like I was always skeptical, when I was a kid, like, is that kooky neighbor that, is he spiking my candy?
Yeah. My parents went through each piece of my candy with almost laser beam technology to make sure that it was all safe. And
really,
lots of candy got thrown in the garbage. No Tootsie Rolls in my house unless they were the sealed kind. No, I remember I got into a fight with my dad once because I really wanted the Andes chocolate. I was like, you could see that it's sealed. He's like, it's not sealed enough. I'm like, that's sealed enough. Nope. In the garbage it went.
Well, this is what my parents did. This was the compromise. Pick out the candy you like. They'll go out and buy it themselves and then throw the rest away. So I actually wound up with more candy.
I understand, but that costs a lot of money for your parents.
Yeah, but you know what?
They
look, I'm their kid. They're investing in their kid. They want to make sure that their kid actually does something with his life instead of get poisoned by some. Anyway, I don't know why we're having this discussion, Nick.
I don't know. It sounds like something that we need to both kind of deal with in therapy. Yeah. This doesn't sound like a devil's podcast.
Yeah, it sounds like we feel like conspiracy theories. People are out to get us or something like that. But anyway. Yeah.
But let's talk about the Devils real quick before our guest Kristy comes on. Jack Hughes, #1 star in the league for the month of October. Jack Hughes, phenomenal month. He was voted as the best player in the league. So this is going to be something I ask Kristy, but I want to ask you first, Sam. Do you think that Jack Hughes was the best player in the NHL? Is he the best player in the NHL right now as of October?
Yes. And I'm not saying that as a homer. And I'm not going by statistics. He just seems to be the most consistent one throughout every period. He's not like scoring all his goals and points in one game or two. He's been consistently silly good.
Yeah. Well, why don't we ask our guest? Because I'm curious of what her opinion is on Jack Hughes. So why don't you do the welcoming?
Yes, she's a good friend of the podcast. Her name is Kristy Flannery from the Hockey News. You can find her on Twitter at @instilettos_NHL. Kristy, you're on with Sam and Nick. How are you tonight?
Hi, guys. How you doing?
We're good. Did you notice the change in your title? Because I think this is your third time on, so now you're a good friend of the podcast. It keeps upgrading.
I'm honored. Absolutely honored.
So we were talking about Jack Hughes and getting that #1 star in the entire NHL in October. I know this is something you wrote about for the Hockey News, so I'm curious of what your take is. Do you think this announces him as the top star in the NHL? How do you look at this after 1 month into the season?
I mean, what he's doing is impressive. He's a special player. There's no doubt about that. And what's kind of crazy too is not only is he elevate his own play, but he's really elevating the play of his teammates as well. He makes everyone around him better. So listen, if you're going to sit down and say the NHL is the best league in the world and he's currently the best, highest point earner in the NHL, I guess there's your argument.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good argument, and you kind of see, you kind of touched on that point a little bit, but something we probably didn't talk about is that Tyler Toffoli was the number one star of last week, and Tyler Toffoli has been basically glued to Jack Hughes' hip this entire season, and he's having a ridiculous start. Do you think that, what role does Toffoli play in that? Is it Toffoli's, is Toffoli just the perfect fit? After last year, they were trying Holla and Bratt, and they tried a bunch of different options. And then this year, Toffoli just seems to fit? Or do you think that this is, Jack Hughes hitting another level, and whoever's there is just along for the ride?
Well, I don't think you could take away the talent that Tyler Toffoli has and what he can bring to the team. I think for a long time, basically since Jack joined the team, everyone's question was Jack needs a goal scorer. Jack needs a goal scorer. And now you're seeing Jack with a pure goal scorer. And now you're just kind of seeing what's happening when you put the two of them together.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's fair. How much do you equate to the power play being better? Because that seems to be the driver of a lot of these offensive points.
I mean, all of it. I think the power play, as much as I saw, I think on Twitter, I was scrolling one day and I saw how there was a hot minute where people were saying how they wanted Andrew Brunette back. And I said, I'm not disrespecting Andrew Brunette because I liked him, but you cannot underestimate what Travis Green has brought to this team. You can't do it. He has, and there's the argument that with the star power the Devils have, there's no excuse to not have a good power play. But minus Toffoli, you saw the power play struggle at times last season. And even Andrew Brunette said that it was never really the level that they wanted it to be in. And how many wins this season can you credit to just their power play connecting? So the power play is huge this season. You can't underestimate that.
Probably all of them, right? I know the Islanders game, they were 4 or 5. At last check, they were the top power play unit. It was 44%, something absolutely ridiculous.
I could be mistaken, but I think it's 42.4, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, maybe I moved the 4, but yeah. So it is an absolutely ridiculous pace. Let me kind of go off the board a little bit with this power play. Are you worried at all that what happens when that number kind of comes back to normal? Even if you're at 30%, which is, ridiculous, that's a lot less than what they're doing now. So are you at all worried about what happens next?
No, not really. I don't think it's going to stay at that number. It's going to come down a little bit, I would think. It's just the way it goes. It's a really long season. Injuries come into play. You don't know what's going to happen. But no, I'm not worried about it. I think the biggest thing for me is even if a team isn't converting on the power play, you don't want to have the momentum go in your opponent's favor because their penalty kill is besting you. It's one thing if you have possession of the puck for those 2 minutes or 1 minute and 40 seconds and you kind of keep moving it around, but you can't actually capitalize on it. As long as it's not taking, because I think last year you saw opponents get momentum from penalty kills. That's what you don't want.
Yeah, I mean that's that was a big problem last year, and obviously I do feel there's this weird disconnect with Andrew Brunette. You kind of brought that up where people don't give him credit for the offensive increase that we had last year, but too many people give him too much credit for everything when the power play was kind of a mess last year. It's the thing we didn't talk about, so and it kind of became glaring, right, in those first 2 games of the Rangers series where they scored on almost every power play. And when the Devils got the man advantage, it was just not the same advantage.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, but I kind of want to pivot. I don't want to call it a negative topic, but kind of more of a questionable topic of Nico Hischier, the other great center on this team. He's out. There's a lot of speculation, and in this world we live in, that's until somebody tells us otherwise, there's going to be a lot of it. But all we know is that it sounds like he's not coming on this road trip, and that's probably 4 games missed, right? That's what it sounds like at least.
Yeah, he's not going on the road.
5 total. So, what do you think is the best plan moving forward? I know they had Michael McLeod randomly in that spot. last game, and I mean they won, so it worked. But what's your best plan moving forward?
I feel like this is the moment when you realize how important it is to have versatile players on your team. And even with Nosek out, who is also a versatile forward, they still have a bunch of options. They have Dawson Mercer, they have Eric Holla, they have Curtis Lazar who could play center, they have Chris Tierney. So there's plenty of options for Lindy Ruff. I understand why they elevated Michael McLeod. And something that I wrote a couple days ago, I said Michael McLeod has been a bright spot to start this season. Like, yes, the spotlight has been on Toffoli and Hughes and Bratt, as it should. But when you watch him, he's doing all the little things right. And when you hear coaches and players talk, they always talk about the little things, all those little details. So I think Michael McLeod is low-key having a really strong start. But like I said, you could always mix it up. I personally, and I'm probably one of the few people that will say this, I was intrigued by the Alexander Holtz, Michael McLeod, Nathan Bastian line, and I would actually like to see the three of them together for another game to see what they can do. So then, like I said, you can move Mercer, you can move Eric. And I think that's kind of the benefit for Lindy Ruff right now is that there are options if he does, keep McLeod up there and he sees that the bottom six is struggling or the bottom two lines are, not really gelling, you put McLeod back. There's so many options. And I think this is when you're learning how important depth is and having those versatile players that can jump around the lineup wherever they need to go.
Yeah. And I will say that it was interesting. You kind of looked at, I'm sure you, like me, always also has your eyes on the prospects, right? And kind of like who can come up now, who can come up later, like where they're going to look at now and in the future. And it's no surprise that with Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier where there are, you look at the rest of kind of the center crop and it's kind of weak, right? Like outside of the NHL, like the Utica Comets, it's not like a ton of centers there. And even like overseas and in juniors, like there's like it's a lot of wingers, it's a lot of defensemen, it's some goalies, but the centers are kind of weak. And you look at this situation where I think coming in, you thought, if you lose a Hughes or a Hischier, which now you're down a Hischier, you kind of assumed it. I personally would have assumed it would be Mercer, right? But Mercer's probably having maybe the worst start of any player on the team. Like he's been pretty bad. So now you got McLeod in that situation. Do you kind of see it the same way where you thought maybe like a Mercer would jump in there, or do you think that like how coming into the season, what did you think would happen if one of them got hurt?
Well, I think too, when you look at Hischier's line, when healthy, Ruff uses Hischier as his shutdown line. He wants to put Hischier out against the team's top opponents. And when I look at kind of who is an option, I understand why he went with McLeod. He's more physical. He's probably the best face-off man that they have that's, over time. So it makes sense to me. I actually sat down with Mercer earlier today, and we kind of talked about, if his role kind of changed on the team with Timo coming back and Tyler now in the fold. And I think with Dawson, I'm going off topic a little bit, there's more that a player can offer than points.
Okay.
And I think with Dawson, everyone's looking at the points and they're not looking at everything else. Like with Nosek out of the picture, he's been more relied on for the penalty kill. And I just think I'm actually going to have an article about this out tomorrow, but there's other ways for a player to contribute, even though it's not points. So yeah, offensively, yes, he's snake bitten right now, but I wouldn't, I don't know. I look at it a little bit different, but it's perspective, right? That's the whole thing with sports. It's your perspective on it. But no, McLeod makes sense to me to start if they're going to keep that line up against opposing opponents. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, and I think the other, because we like when you look at McLeod, I think a lot of people looked at his numbers last year, where I think he only had I think it less than 10 points, something like crazy like that. But I think Ruff used him in that very situationally, and I'm kind of seeing how he's using Dawson Mercer, and it's very strange to me. Like I'm trying to give it some time to kind of see how it's going to play out in the end. But his numbers look weird. Even his advanced statistics look strange. He's actually has the lowest. When you look at the chances for, chances against, he's lowest on the team, behind Holtz and Brendan Smith and all these other guys who were kind of expected to be there. So I'm really trying to figure out what Ruff wants out of Holtz, or I'm sorry, out of Mercer, because even I think it was against Minnesota where Mercer played 21 minutes, right? And
Mhm.
he played Holtz like 6. So it's I'm trying to I got to give Ruff the benefit of the doubt after last season, and even now,
Mhm.
like the team is 5-2-1, like they're winning. As much as we want to act like the world is on fire when we're when the Devils are 5-2-1, they're 5-2-1. That's
Yeah.
quite good. So but did he say anything else interesting? Like, was there anything that kind of stood out to you?
For Dawson,
Yeah.
you can read it tomorrow.
Oh, love
There's
it.
my
Love a
teaser.
good tease. Love a good
You can
tease.
read it tomorrow, but yeah, I mean, he's a great kid. Great kid,
Yeah,
good positive attitude.
we'll definitely share that piece on all the social media accounts just so everybody sees what we were teasing and what Dawson's going to say. So look out for that
Exactly.
tomorrow. But I'm going to pivot a little bit again.
Mhm.
We're talking about this home trip or this road trip. Sorry, this road trip that's coming up. Starting with Minnesota. Another game that they've already played, but
Mhm.
it's different now because they're actually going on the road, which
Mhm.
they haven't really done much. Right? They've played the road game has been, they've played in New York, and they haven't. I think you said it yourself. They haven't gotten on a plane yet, and
They did for Montreal.
that's true.
Very small
I'm
plane.
sorry. Yeah.
Very
So
small
it's
trip.
fair. But this is going to be the first time extended, time away from home. And I've talked to other people who cover New York sports and say, this is a unique element of playing in this area is that a lot of teams, like even Boston and the Capitals and the Penguins, are a bus trip, right? I know sometimes they take the plane to Pittsburgh, but it's usually a bus trip for most of these. And now they're going on a flight for a while. So as someone who's been covering this team for a couple of years now and kind of sees like what those things do, what do you think is going to change now that they're actually going away from New Jersey for more than a night? Like what's that gonna look like?
I don't know if there's a change to it. It's just the guys
Mm-hmm.
are bonding. There's
Mm,
more, like I actually, when I sat down with Dawson, we talked about it, and he said, he's like, it's just a lot of fun. Everyone loves going on the road. All the guys are together all the time. They're doing dinners together, and it's just team bonding. Because you have to think, when they're back in New Jersey, some of them have kids, there's other responsibilities going on. So I think it's just good for them just to kind of get away and just have that extra time together. And last season, the road record I think was 28-9-4. So
mm-hmm.
if they could pick that up again, like they're golden. And even today, Lindy talked about how they did so well on the road last year, and he said this last year. He said it again today. Some of the players have said it. When they play at home, it's almost like they try to entertain a little bit
Huh.
more in front of their fans, and Ruff said overcook some situations, and they just play a simpler game on the road. So I think those are kind of all the elements that kind of get put into it together, but it's just a good time for the guys. I think just to have that time together.
It's kind of funny you say that because I've heard some people say that about certain people who I'm trying not to reveal anything, but basically players who decided not to sign in New Jersey because they were from the area. And
Mhm.
that's something that they considered. Too many people are going to ask them for too many things when they're home. And so if they're close to home but not home, it's a different ask, right? You only ask for tickets every so often. You only have to make people happy or sad every so often, right? So that's kind of an interesting perspective, right? The ask that comes with being home and the ask that comes with being on the road. That's kind of an interesting
Mhm.
perspective to me, at least.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get a little negative now because just the pulse of the fan base, and I've seen a
I know where you're
lot
going
of
with this.
yeah. It's. I mean, if you're on any social media account, it's every single game you see the same name mentioned, and it's Smith.
Mhm.
Brendan Smith gets mentioned over and over and over again. His negatives are ballooned. They feel like they're the size of Wisconsin, and everything he does good is very quiet because he doesn't score goals, he doesn't get assists, he doesn't pass the puck very well. Everything he does is like the penalty kill, right?
Mhm.
So looking at the situation and how people are reacting,
Mhm.
kind of where we are, it's also I always try to remind people it's like very early. We are 8 games in the season. Like, let things gel a little bit. But I kind of want your opinion on this now, that because this is the scuttlebutt, this is what people are talking about. Do you think the Devils need to make a change on that line? Do you think Luke Hughes needs a different partner, like maybe moving up with John Marino? Do you think they need to like maybe look at a Cal Foote, or maybe look at somebody else like Simone Nemitz is somebody that always comes up because he's a second overall pick? Like, what is your opinion of what they do with that third line right side of the defense?
All right, so this is what I'm going to say. I think that every team has a player that gets a lot of flack from the fan base, whether it's warranted or not. I don't think it's just Devils fans. It's across all sports, all teams. Last season in New Jersey, it was Damon Severson and it was Miles Wood. And everyone knew when those two left, that torch was going to be passed to somebody. And unfortunately for Brendan, that is where it went. And listen, has Brendan made, I'll say what I said about Damon, glaring mistakes. Sure. You point me to a player who hasn't made a mistake in the past 8 games. Hockey is a game of mistakes. And it's like Lindy says, and I know nobody wants to hear me say this, and I'm not defending anybody, it's just a fact. If every player makes a mistake, every single one, but there's, I don't know. I feel like with Damon, I always said this, like, yes, the mistakes were glaring when they happen, like whether his pass got intercepted or whatever it was, but you miss all the little things that he did right. And you don't realize that until the player's gone. And you're like, oh, maybe he would have been a more stable option for like the third pair to pair with Luke. But I think there's more. I think like when you hear Lindy talk and everyone's sitting down saying, oh, he's defending Brendan. One, I think you want your coach to defend their players. Yes, hold them accountable, but you also want to see a coach defend their player. And I do think that he's 100% accurate when he says that Smith brings energy to the bench. I 1000% believe that, because when I see him at practice, he's the one that his mouth is going a mile a minute. He's laughing. He's keeping the guys loose. That's Brendan. That's usually Brendan and Eric that I see on the ice, like joking around during practice. And I just, people are going to get so mad at me, but I'm going to say it anyway.
We'll protect you, Kristy.
It's okay. I mean, listen, everyone's entitled to their opinion. You can 1000% disagree with me. But when I look at Nemec and Luke, just because they are projected to be top players in the league does not mean they're there now. Rookie defensemen make rookie mistakes. That is part of the deal. It's going to happen.
I mean, Luke's made mistakes, like pretty glaring
Luke
ones.
has made mistakes. And I think the thing is that Luke is so offensive that I think people kind of don't pay attention to the defensive mistakes. They just kind of glare over it because it's like, oh, well, he can do that in the defensive zone because we know that when the power play comes, he's going to be a really good quarterback and he's going to assist. And I think there's a free pass that kind of falls into that category. Whereas defensive defensemen, they don't usually get that because they don't really contribute to the team offensively. And when I spoke to Cam Jansen not too long, I guess it was a while ago now, he made it a point to say to me, he goes, every guy that is in a lineup is in the lineup for a reason. He said, fans might not say it, fans might not get it, but he's like, I am telling you and I am promising you, every single player that is on that bench is on that bench for a very specific reason. And even to go kind of like on that path, when I talked to Nico over the summer, he mentioned Andre Palat last year. And I think Andre Palat was obviously injured. And when Andre came back, a lot of people on social media were not impressed with Andre. They're like, he's getting too much money. He's not contributing to the team. Nico sat me down and said, he's like, I cannot express to you how important Andre's presence was, even though he wasn't suiting up for a game. And he goes, you guys don't see it. Fans don't see it. Media don't see it. But behind closed doors, having him around the guys and his work ethic and how he approaches like just the day-to-day grind was huge for his team. And I am not sitting down and saying that Brendan is there. I know that Brendan is a phenomenal locker room voice. But I kind of look at this as, again, just because a player's not, like, just because Dawson's not contributing offensively doesn't mean he's not making an impact on the team. And just because Brendan has his like glaring mistakes doesn't mean he's not impacting the team in another way and finding value in another way. I just think for fans, it's kind of black or white. Whereas I think for players, there's areas of gray, and that's my.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that just made sense, but that is my rant.
No, I honestly, like what you've said is something I've heard the players say in these post games, and what I've heard Lindy Ruff say is that you don't see it. Like even what he's done, like even when he was a healthy scratch, like he was contributing to this team in a major way. I'm talking about Brendan Smith now. Just he was just a huge presence. So I know we're coming up in time, so I'm gonna pivot one more time. I need to ask this, and it's putting you on the spot a little bit. So I just want you to prepare you for this, but. Gary Bettman came out today and said that there's going to be a concert before the Devils Flyers game, the Stadium Series. Is there somebody you would like it to be? Like, is there a concert that you're hoping this is? Is this, are you hoping for Bruce or Bon Jovi? Or, my personal hope is that it's, My Chemical Romance. I think that would be a really cool one. Is there somebody who you think would be really cool to have at the Stadium Series?
Yeah. So this actually isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I'm actually not a Bruce fan. I know your people are going to hate me by
no.
That. I do like Bon Jovi. I'm not a Bruce. I'm not a Bruce girl.
Fair enough.
I actually agree with you with My Chemical Romance because one, that their song plays when they wear the black alternate jerseys. They were established in Newark, New Jersey. So I think there's too many ties. I didn't have the energy. I couldn't do anything. It was just I'm like slowly getting back into routine. Let's see. I have my Dawson story coming out tomorrow. I sat down with Kevin Ball for a little bit today after practice as well. Had some good. He's a good interview. I think he's low key really good. I have that coming out. I've been saving this. I last season talked to Damon, who was great with the media, great interview, about Miles Wood. And I've been holding on to this for so long because I was going to run it, but then the playoffs happened and Wood became like the new whipping boy for the team. And I was like, I'm going to hold on to it. But I think I'm going to release it. It's just kind of like more fun to kind of get to know him off of the ice a little bit. And just kind of like see the player see the human being that he was. I think I'm going to release that when they play Colorado. I think the timing's right for that one. And I'm actually, after I finish this, I'm going to wrap up. I tried to talk to a couple of guys about the Halloween party. I didn't get a lot of information, which I say I'm very transparent. Like, I still don't know what Jack's costume was or Luke's costume, but I did get some intel. So I figured I'm just going to put it into an article and people can read it if they want. If they don't, that's okay too. But I tried to get some information like at the very end of my one-on-ones.
I will say that's what I miss most about PK, because I feel like PK was like, I'm putting this on social media. So you got to see the group costumes. You got to see everybody because PK was like, I'm going to put this on social media. Yeah. PK was not, though. PK Subban was very much like, I'm putting this on social media. I'm putting this on Instagram.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing I missed.
I talked to Siegenthaler and Akira, and I got who they thought the best Halloween costume was, and I found out what Siegenthaler was. So.
Oh, nice. Okay, so that'll be up. Is that up tomorrow too, or is that up later this week?
That might be up later tonight. It depends. Yeah, it should be up later tonight.
So we're gonna share that one, and we're gonna share the Dawson Mercer article when it comes out tomorrow. We're gonna show that off because we're very excited to see what both of those. We love Halloween. I was Frankenstein. Were you anything?
I haven't dressed up for Halloween in 10 years. I'm not like a Halloween. I know I'm not a Bruce girl. I'm not a Halloween girl. I lost so many followers after this segment.
Halloween is the only holiday I actually celebrate, but that's okay. It's
and
fine.
I live in a massive Halloween town too. Like they go all out for Halloween. We did take the dogs out and we walked down Main Street and like saw the costumes and the decorations. Costumes are expensive. They're out of control right now. It's just not something I'm looking to do.
See, I found ways to kind of adjust like my own wardrobe because like Frankenstein is I took a purple t-shirt, put it inside out. I wore one of my suits and I just needed to buy green face paint and then bada bing. Oh, and I had to buy bolts. But my son was also Frankenstein, so we were matching Frankenstein. So
that's really cute.
Yeah, and then my wife was Bride of Frankenstein. So it there was a theme. We all went together. You would be surprised how long it took us to discuss what a 5-month-old's costume was, but
I'm sure
that it is what it is. Kristy, we're looking very much to that Dawson Mercer and the Halloween article. I'm very much looking forward to the Halloween article. So we'll share those.
Temper your expectations for Halloween. I did the best
listen,
I could, guys.
we love a November. We love to keep November alive. So looking forward to that. But Kristy, thank you so much for coming on. We're definitely going to have you on again soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Kristy. That's Kristy Flannery of the Hockey News. Find her on Twitter at @Instalettos_NHL.
You know, every time we talk to Kristy, I'm reminded of a couple years ago when we were we were one of the only games in town, right? It was my blog. All About the Jersey has been there from more than a decade ago. But it was Shayna Goldman, another friend of the podcast, kind of doing some side Devils projects, but she wasn't a beat writer, and Dan Rice was he came over to us and he was the beat, but that was when Kristy joined the beat. And the good thing about having somebody like Kristy on the beat then, right, when there was just not a lot of people on the beat, is that she got to kind of build her voice, and she got to build what the writing was about and what it was going to look like, and how she was going to build herself. And now she's with this fantastic outlet, the Hockey News, and her work is extended into different arms because of that that partnership that she has with her new place of work. And it's just you see the evolution of these people, Sam. And when you're working with a fan base like this, like, we're not the Yankees, we're not even we're not the Maple Leafs, we're not even the Flyers, right? We're the Devils. It's I don't want to call it niche, right? Because it is growing because of Jack Hughes and because of their place in the standings, but it's still the guys who have been here, like us, who've been here. We've been doing this podcast for 6 or 7 years. People like Kristy, who's just always been grinding on the beat through the good and the bad. You kind of take a different appreciation for that, right? When we remember when we were the game in town, and it was us, and it was Kristy, and it was the other blogs that are out there, and when the big Devil stories happened, we kind of had full reign. And now, we've built up that fan base, so we get to be trusted. So when these other the other games that come into town, right? They come on they're hitching their wagon, and they're like, okay, that's fine, like.
How about the
Come
one
on down?
Hey, I got to answer John M on the YouTube Live. He asked if I paid the PSE&G bill. I don't know if you and Kristy noticed during the interview. We had an internet outage, but you probably didn't notice, Nick. So what I did.
Fantastic job by Sam to hide it.
Yeah, so basically, the recording, everything is fine, but the stream going out to social media like YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook took a little bit of a dip.
Okay.
Just to let everybody know that even though I'm inside the bunker, there's actually major construction going outside of the bunker that probably caused it, and it's going to be for the next 3 weeks, unfortunately.
Do you have PSE&G up there?
No.
I was going to say, I was like, I have PSE&G.
No, we have JCP&L, the worst.
Yeah.
The worst. The First Energy, they're worst. They remind me of the Devil's Power Play back in 2016.
Was it JCP&L or was it PSE&G?
Oh, it was always
PSE&G Power Play.
Yeah. But I'm just talking like, figuratively speaking, JCP&L is known for their outages before a storm hits, not like during a storm.
I haven't paid attention. Is it the PSE&G Power Play still?
Yes.
Are they getting the fruits of their labor finally?
Yeah. I would love to.
That's sticking with that sponsorship is paying dividends now.
One day when Ancrew Brew is a multi-billion-dollar company, and it's Ancrew Brew Power Play.
If it's a $1 billion company, I better have a little cut of those. We should talk about what future beers look like, right? We need to We'll discuss that at a later date once we get the million mark, right?
Yeah,
million
yep.
beers sold of the Ann Crew Brew.
Yep.
We'll discuss what comes next. But I would hope, I'm drinking beer on all these podcasts. I get it. Beer Baron is Beer Baron. He gets the first shot at this, but I got dibs on part 2.
Well, you got to talk to Brian about it.
All right. Well, I'll
talk to Brian about it. We got to worry about it.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll work on it. It's not that I'm stalling. We haven't had the launch party yet on November 10th.
Yeah. Fair enough. So we went on a couple different subjects, and the one we haven't talked about yet is Nico, right? And I kind of want to talk to you about it. I want to see what your thoughts are about the injury situation. There's been a lot of speculation, right? There was a canceled signing that had people losing their minds, and I tell everybody temper your expectations temper your reactions, because that doesn't mean anything. Like, there's a million reasons why these things get canceled or postponed. So I don't know if that means it's anything to be.
By the way, the replacements have been phenomenal. Jonas Siegenthaler.
Yeah, and Kristy wrote about it.
Kristy wrote about it.
Yeah, Akira Schmidt and Jonas Siegenthaler, 2 fantastic replacements.
Sports-minded, yeah. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Emily, friend of the podcast. Well, she's not a friend yet, right?
Not yet. We got to get her on a second time.
We got her getting it. But maybe
cool.
Maybe we'll get her on to promote that.
It would be cool because we're doing the November 18th Devils Rangers, I believe. Is it November 18th? It's November 18th. It would be cool I
know the 30th is the Flyers game, so I was going to ask you about that, but we'll talk off air about that.
Well, but November 19th, that sports-minded thing, it would be kind of cool if we did a podcast while people are waiting in line, and people can, it'd be kind of cool to do something like that. But anyway, I'm just
we gotta we have a lot of partnerships. We gotta partner with.
Get on it.
All right. We'll work on it. But yeah. So but let's talk about Nico Hischier. What was your thoughts seeing Michael McLeod in that spot?
I have a lot of thoughts about it, but Michael McLeod on it. Let's just put it this way: kid deserved that spot.
Mm-hmm. Since the playoffs, right?
Yeah,
it's been good since the playoffs.
I mean, he's kind of he is a Devil's lifer. He came back on a 1-year deal. Basically, him and Bastian said we would have taken anything, and they did. They know that there's something special going on here, and I kind of like somebody in that spot. I'd rather have it go to someone like Michael McLeod. He's not going to hurt you.
Yeah,
be in that spot.
And I think he can play for, one of the benchmarks that I look at is that Pavel Zacha contract that Ray Shero gave him after he said some not so nice words about Zacha's negotiating tactics. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
But I think that McLeod has a very realistic chance of that contract if, I'll say if everything works out and, he plays the way he's playing right now. I don't think they're going to give him much more than that, but I think McLeod thought he was going to get that this year, and then the Devils kind of called his bluff. Right? He called his and Bastian's bluff, and said, "If you think you can get that, go get it." And I believe they both said they didn't negotiate with anybody. Right? They immediately were like, "Okay, we'll sign the contracts. Like, we'll come back. This is what we're doing." And it says a lot that if you look at their on ice performance. I cannot say that Bastian had a better season than McLeod, right? Mm-hmm. But Bastian signed a 2-year deal while McLeod only got 1. And I think there's a reason for that, right? I think that they're willing to take the risk on McLeod for just a 1-year deal, thinking that they can, if he has another good season, they could sign him a 3 or 4-year deal for a little extra money when the cap goes up. So they give him something now, take the risk. He either earns another contract or he doesn't, right?
Yeah.
And I think he would sign that 3-year deal because, like you said, you want to be a part of something, right? It's one thing if you're like a star, right? A star player is different than like what a McLeod does, but Same thing with Holla. Holla wants to be a part of this. Holla has said, excuse me, Holla just wanted to find a home. And he thinks he found one in New Jersey. That's why he signed that 3-year deal. He signed that before free agency started, correct?
Yes, I believe. Yeah, because Fitzgerald was so good, he got all his business done before free agency started.
He because I think that Toffoli trade was on the 29th.
And
free agency started on the 1st, and Toffoli trade was like kind of the last thing. Like he signed Nosek and Tierney, and
Nick,
I can't remember because the Meyer trade was done before the Toffoli, or the Meyer signing was before that, and Brett was even before Meyer. So I remember celebrating at the draft, right? Because we saw the Toffoli trade, and we had already done the Meyer. The Devils had already done the Meyer signing and the Bratt signing. So I remember celebrating there, and then people kind of, this fan base is this fan base. They were on a cliff when we didn't sign every big free agent. But
Nick, I got some beef.
Okay, like the good kind of beef, like beefalytics, or you got
No, I got some beef with the NHL right now. Because did you see that Charlie McAvoy hit on Oliver Ekman-Larsson?
I have not.
Okay.
But I saw that he got a phone call disciplinary hearing, which can be up to 5 games.
4 games. 4 games! And the Nico Hischier hit was worse. And Clifton got 2 games. That pisses me off because what? Is Nico Hischier, expendable to the NHL? Like, what?
You think they'd give the star player, who was McAvoy in this case, the benefit of the doubt more often to keep him on the ice.
But 4 games versus 2 over the Nico Hischier one was worse. I've watched the replay over and over and over again, and I didn't really notice till my wife told me early this morning. It's like, how does he get 4 games too? And I'm like watching again. I'm like, she's right. The inconsistency of this league is terrible. It's never in an even playing field. It's all subjective to, whoever gets paid off in the front office. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this. I think that story is kind of fallen under the radar because, there's the tragedy that happened with Adam Johnson, the former
absolutely
player.
Absolutely.
That's been on a lot of people's minds. There's the Shane Pinto situation where he got caught gambling, and that's, has a lot of people, some people criticizing, some people, applauding.
How can you not when Connor McDavid's wearing that advertisement on his jersey?
It's definitely a dynamic, right?
Yeah.
And I've been listening to a lot of Elliot Friedman with Sportsnet, right? You've seen it happen in the NFL. You've seen the suspensions come down in the NFL. I lost Jamison Williams off my fantasy team, my dynasty team this year, and I didn't really know what to do with him. So that's interesting. But and the one I want to talk to you about, Sam, and because it comes up, it has brought up some past pain for Devils fans. Yeah. And obviously whenever somebody loses a first-round pick, the Devils come up because they lost the first-round pick, and then they got, I don't know if you want to call it a compensatory pick or whatever the heck you want to call it, but they got a replacement pick back. First of all, to the people saying the Devils face no punishment, they're incorrect. They went from the 10th overall pick to the 30th overall pick. Think about what a team would have to trade to move up from 30th all the way to 10. They'd probably trade, 2 first-round picks, Sam? Or maybe a first-round pick and a high-quality prospect?
Yeah.
That is the value that the Devils lost in that draft pick. Yes, they physically got a player back who ended up being John Quenneville. But to act like they face no punishment is ridiculous. So I just want to put that out there. But for those of you who haven't seen, the Ottawa Senators lost a first-round pick because of their role in the Evgeny Dadonov no trade clause nonsense. He was traded to the Vegas Golden Knights. They claim the Senators didn't tell them about a no-trade clause portion of his contract. Then the Vegas Golden Knights agreed to trade him to the Ducks, and Dadonov called him and said, I actually have a no-trade clause. And they're like, here's the thing about that. We already traded you. And he said, here's the thing about that. No, you didn't. So it made everybody look really bad. And because of the Senators standing in it, they lost a first-round pick. And it's the same situation as the Devils, right? They can pick between this year's first-round pick, next year's first-round pick, or I guess it's next year's first-round pick, 2024, 2025, 2026. They could pick one of those 3 first-round picks to lose. We don't know if anything's going to happen to the Golden Knights. We don't know if anything's going to happen to the Ducks. But there's more fallout from this. I believe I would assume because of this, Pierre Dorian was fired. And that was always a controversial hiring there in Ottawa. They have new ownership. I believe I saw that the new ownership said they were not aware of this or the Shane Pinto situation when they bought the team. So that's going to come into play. Are they is this owner going to try to get out of it? Like, it is a whole mess up there. But what do you think about those comparisons between the Devil situation with Kovalchuk and this Dadonov situation?
You're comparing apples and oranges, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
And first off, the Kovalchuk thing, okay.
It wasn't a rule.
Well, first of all, that Kovalchuk thing, every team was doing it. The reason why the Devils got penalized, and I can't prove this, is because I think Gary got a little pissed that Vanderbeek's giving out big contracts that he can't cash. And I think that had a lot to do with it behind the scenes. That's what I think. So what do? You punish the fans, or the organization for it, and it's like, okay, whatever. And that Chris Pronger deal, I think the Flyers are still paying for it. There's other deals that are very similar in nature. Nothing happened, and you could tie it into that NBC Sports contract years ago. But you know what? First off, I don't know what really goes on with these trades, but I mean, you could just go to capfriendly.com and find if somebody has no trade clause, can't you?
It was there.
Yeah, so somebody didn't do their due diligence.
A lot of people didn't, right? That's got to be like, there's like.
This is as bad as John Spano buying the Islanders.
Yeah, that was bad.
That was bad. But nobody lost a first-round pick on that one.
I know, but this is bad, Sam. This is bad. This is like, how do you miss this? How do you miss something that you or me know where to find? Like, that can't be good.
I'm telling you, if they hired Shayna Goldman, or people that are, that know these contracts inside out and all that, this wouldn't have been a problem. But instead, you're going on a whim on someone's word. You got to do your due diligence on it. That's the first place I would look.
And that's why the Devils hired guys like Matt Cain before it was cool. And, say what you want about John Jacob, but Arizona's not in much better shape since he left. Mm-hmm. And I am surprised he hasn't gotten another job because he looked at it a different way, and that way avoids things like this. I would look at Jacob for Ottawa. I think that's an interesting spot for him.
Yeah, but doesn't he have a bad rap?
I don't know why though. And I'm trying. So
didn't he just go gallivanting off talking to the Devils?
So I heard, I have sources who told me that, right? I have sources who did tell me that he was talking to the Devils, and that he became persona non grata when some of that Coyote stuff came out, right? With the practice sessions and stuff like that. But you can make mistakes. There's a lot of rules. Dorian, how long has Dorian been doing this as an analyst, as a front office executive? It's a very long time, and he made this major mistake. So, or maybe he did it on purpose. I don't know. Maybe that's why they got such a heavy penalty. Because the first round pick for the Senators is a heavy penalty, right? They're I don't know where they are in the standings right now, but they're facing a uphill climb because Tampa's playing better. Toronto's a powerhouse. Boston is the best team in the league again. I don't know how. Sam, I don't know how. They found the secret sauce that is Pavel Zacha, and he's playing out of his mind as a first line center. He just had an overtime goal, and I think they're 8-0-1, like something absolutely astronomically ridiculous. And then you got Buffalo fighting for relevancy, but they've had a really rough start. You have Detroit playing stupendous hockey, right? I don't know how sustainable it is, but they're playing incredibly well so far. That Atlantic is good, right? Montreal is better than I expected. They're still bad. I'm missing one team. Who am I missing in the Atlantic? Florida. Florida, I don't know where they are in the standings, but 2 years ago, President's Trophy winner. Last year, the Stanley Cup representative for the Eastern Conference. So, it's not like it's going to be easy to get into the playoffs this year for Ottawa. And then you look at the Metro. You got the Devils are playing well. Carolina is 6-4, so like call that whatever you want to call it. But New York's playing out of their mind. The Rangers playing out of their mind. The Islanders are playing fine. The bottom three, Pittsburgh might fire people. Like it's looking bad in Pittsburgh. I think what are they 3-6? I think. It's not looking great in Columbus. It's not looking great in Washington, even though they beat the Devils. So, there are opportunities because I don't think the Metro is as dominant as we were thinking it might be. But the Atlantic is picking up for that because Detroit's really good. And Boston is better than we thought they were going to be. Much better. And Tampa is surviving without Vasilevsky. And Toronto is Toronto. So, it's... Ottawa's in a weird spot. But I think there was a lot of talk about Ottawa at the end of the podcast, Sam.
Well... Yeah,
I got some plugs, though. I got a fun plug.
Yeah, go right ahead. Plug away.
So, there's an article out right now where I think I mentioned it with Kristy, where I talk about some bands that I think would look really good playing at the Stadium Series. Just some fun things that I think would be really cool. So that's out on Pucks and Pitchforks right now. Tomorrow morning, Sam, I got a off the wall idea. What would happen if we gave PK a call? Said, you in shape? We're having some trouble on the right side of our defense. You in shape, PK? Do you think you're still at least what you were? If you got PK Subban from his last year on the Devils, would you take that over Brendan Smith right now?
No. Stay retired, PK. Nope.
Well, I'm going to write the article anyway.
Nope.
So,
nope.
I think they should at least float it. See if it's worth it. Give him test his strength. Give him a practice to see if he's worthwhile. There's other options like Ethan Bear would be really interesting, but he's out till December. But I don't see why not, Sam. Why are you against it?
What, PK?
Yeah.
I think Brendan Smith has. I think Brendan Smith is a lot more valuable to the team than people give him credit for, and bringing PK in may disrupt what the progress has gone on since he retired.
I would say I understand, but Jack Hughes seemed to really like him. A lot of the young kids seem to really like him. You'd have to talk to some of the veterans because he's just a big personality. and those are some of the things that I'll touch on. I'll look at the numbers, and I'm gonna look. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look at the numbers. I'm gonna see if it makes sense. If the numbers don't make sense, then in the article I'll say probably just better to try.
I don't know. I mean, I like PK too, but liking a player is different from trying to win a Stanley Cup. I think it's too much of a distraction. There's no focus. I don't think it would work.
No focus.
Oh, come on. PK is kind of like a class clown. I like to see something. I want to see players that are serious. I mean, Brendan Smith is a serious player, and he's a veteran. I'm not saying that PK sucks.
I mean, you can't win a Vezina without being focused. Or not a Vezina, Norris. Without having focus.
Yeah, but that was back then. Right now, again, I mean, I don't know. I mean, look at Travis Kelce. He's lost focus now. They lost the game.
2 weeks ago, he had his best game of the season.
That's just because he was motivated. All for the wrong reasons.
He's doing all too well.
Maybe that's a bad example.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Max says that PK is a me type of a guy.
Based on what?
I don't know.
This is just perception without actual evidence. He was all about talking up this team. He's still all about talking up this team. He talks about the Devils I don't think if things went as badly, I think that first year went bad. That first year was bad. Him and Taylor Hall did not get along. And I think we learned that's not a PK problem. Right? It was just an awkward situation.
Well, I think a lot to do with John Hines, too.
Yeah. And I think Taylor Hall was vehemently behind Hines. And I think Hines was a no-nonsense guy. And I do believe you that I do agree with you that PK probably joked around in practice and fooled around and whatever. And I bet you Hines hated that.
I hate that, too.
Have a little fun. Have a little fun, Sam.
I think Palat and Brendan Smith and some of these veterans that were brought in really got everybody to really focus on what really counts.
Yeah, but this team plays loose. And they learned that under Lindy Ruff.
You're arguing with me, Nick. We've had Kristy on this podcast today saying the same things I'm saying. Even Dawson Mercer about the points. It's not about the points. Thank you for the
I
super
haven't
chat.
gotten to my point. I was thank you guys. I appreciate that. See, that tells you that they're agreeing with my PK point.
No, well, Max gave us a super chat. He just wants to say his name isn't Hines, it's Lizard Man.
Oh, well, that was worth the money.
Yeah.
I give you that.
Yeah.
And this is what I'll end on. But I think that PK would be a better teacher of the game for Luke Hughes than Brendan Smith. He's much closer to his style of play. He can walk him through a lot more of this game. And I think it's, I don't know. I think he's a good ambassador for the Devils. And I don't see why you don't give him just a tryout. Just call him up. And he might say no. He might say, I'm cool at ESPN. I don't want to fight for my career. I've retired. But, he's only 34. That's young. He's younger than me, Sam.
He's been out of the game.
It's only a year.
He's not as fast.
I'd be more worried about Patrick Kane than I would be about PK Subban.
Well then.
Oh, and then I have one other article that's going to come out. We're going to talk about Thomas Tatar. It looks like he's going to get scratched in Colorado. There's some people talking about whether the Devils should target him. I think we're going to do dueling articles in the morning with me and John. Talking one side saying the Devils should try to get Tatar back. And the other side saying Tatar is fine in Colorado. Thank you. So that's coming out on pucksandpitchforks.com. We also have a one story from Trey Matthews. You mentioned him earlier. He wrote about. I'm gonna have to look because I just don't want to get this wrong. So he wrote about. It's been a long day. Tyler Toffoli. Thank you. Sorry. And took some quotes from Toffoli and about his role with this team and how well he's playing. So that's up on pucksandpitchforks.com. Check that out right now.
Yeah, pucksandpitchforks.com. Also remember, November 10th, the And Crew Brew launch party at American Whiskey before the Devils take on the Washington Capitals for their revenge game. November 10th. It's going to be an all-day affair. Get there early. It's going to be a wonderful Friday night. And that's all I'm plugging. Game Day Live and Devils After Dark tomorrow, before and after the game. Till next time, let's go Devils.